Today, we're going to break down Operation Epic Fury. And this wasn't just some isolated military strike. No, this was the grand finale of a meticulously planned campaign, one that unleashed a radical and, frankly, kind of terrifying new doctrine of warfare on the world. Okay, let's get into it. Mark the date down, February 28th, 2026. This is the day the rulebook for modern conflict got torn up and rewritten in real time. For most of us watching, it felt like it came out of the blue. But the truth is, the events of this day were the final explosive chapter in a story that had been unfolding for months, mostly in the shadows. I mean, just try to imagine waking up to this news. In the very first hours, the leader of the country is gone. The entire nation's internet is basically shut off. And then, a prayer app, something millions of people trust every single day, starts sending out messages that help has arrived, telling people how to surrender. This wasn't just a bombing run, it was a perfectly synchronized attack on the physical, digital, and psychological heart of a nation. So the big question is, how on earth was this even possible? An attack this complex doesn't just happen. It wasn't some spontaneous reaction to a new threat. This was the final move in a chess game where every single piece had been carefully placed long before. To really get it, we have to rewind and look at the rehearsals. Right. The 2026 operation didn't just appear out of thin air. It was actually built on the back of two crucial, you could almost call them dress rehearsals. These were operations designed to systematically test every single piece of this new strategy: the military hardware, the legal justifications, and the psychological warfare tactics. And here are the two pillars of the whole thing. First, you have Midnight Hammer back in 2025. That was the hardware test, right? It answered the big question: can our planes and our bombs actually destroy Iran's most heavily fortified nuclear sites? Then you have Absolute Resolve in Venezuela, just a month before the main event. That was totally different. It answered the question: can we create a legal and psychological playbook for taking out another country's leader preemptively? And if you look at the timeline for that military test, it's pretty revealing. The whole thing kicks off with an Israeli operation. But the key moment, the one you really need to pay attention to, is June 22nd. That's when the U.S. launched its massive strike, just 2 days before nuclear talks were supposed to resume. That's no accident. It was a crystal clear signal that they were choosing bombs over diplomacy. And the sheer scale of this test was just staggering. We're talking 7 of the most advanced stealth bombers on the planet, flying a continuous 37-hour mission all the way from Missouri. They dropped over 400,000 pounds of explosives, including these massive bunker busters designed to smash through mountains. This was an absolute flex, a demonstration of overwhelming military power. Okay, but here's the absolute key to this whole puzzle. Publicly, the administration was taking a victory lap, saying the nuclear program was obliterated. Total success. But behind closed doors, their own intelligence agencies were saying the damage was just a temporary setback, maybe a few months, tops. This gap, this space between the public story and the classified reality, well, that became the whole justification for everything that happened next. So that gap between what they said and what they knew became the green light for the next phase. Over the next few months, a covert shadow campaign kicked into high gear. The goal was simple: systematically weaken Iran from the inside out, to make it so brittle that it couldn't possibly fight back effectively when the real attack came. And this campaign was like a slow-burn thriller. You start seeing mysterious fires at military warehouses. Then, the state-run TV channel suddenly gets hacked and starts broadcasting anti-regime content, all while a massive U.S. naval fleet just parks itself right offshore. Each incident was a message, another turn of the screw designed to wreck their logistics, sow chaos, and just ramp up the psychological pressure to unbearable levels. And all of this fits under one specific military tactic: psychological operations, or peace ops. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a kind of warfare that doesn't target buildings or tanks. It targets the human mind. The whole point is to use information to mess with your enemy's emotions and their ability to think clearly, to get them to act the way you want them to. And this is probably the most brilliant and chilling example of psyops in action. This wasn't just some random hack. This was a precision-guided psychological missile. Just imagine it. You hear explosions outside, you're terrified, and in that exact moment, the app you use every day for something as personal as prayer lights up and tells you it's over. It's designed to create absolute confusion and make you feel hopeless, turning a tool of faith into an unbelievable weapon of war. So, okay, the target was being weakened physically and psychologically. But there was another battlefield in this war: the battle for public opinion and for legal justification. You can't just do something like this. You have to build a case for what was, let's be honest, a war of choice. And a huge part of that was this social media campaign that followed a very clear three-step playbook. First, you paint yourself as the good guy who tried everything else. Claim you wanted to negotiate, but they just wanted to practice evil. Second, you reframe the whole conflict. This isn't a new war. No, it's the final chapter in a 47-year-long saga of grievances. And third, you point to a recent win, like that raid in Venezuela, and promise an even bigger, better performance this time around. Now, on the legal front, this is where things get really, let's say, creative. The administration leaned heavily on this very controversial idea called the ongoing conflict theory. The argument was basically that the ceasefire after those 2025 strikes wasn't an end to the war, it was just a pause. It's like hitting the pause button on a movie. And if it's just paused, well, you don't need to ask Congress for permission to hit play again. This legal strategy was then all packaged up and presented to the United Nations, and it was built on three main pillars. Pillar 1, the ongoing conflict idea. Hey, this isn't a new war, we're just finishing the old one. Pillar 2, we're not just defending ourselves, we're defending our allies in the region. And Pillars 3, this was a new one, a concept called expanded imminence. Basically, arguing a threat doesn't have to be immediate if a country has a really long history of hostile behavior. So, with all the pieces in place, the military, the psychological, the public, and the legal groundwork, the operation launched. So now we have to talk about the results and the brand new reality this decapitation strategy created for everyone. Well, the immediate military outcome was staggering and incredibly one-sided. In the first 48 hours, Iran's navy wasn't just defeated for all practical purposes, it was wiped off the map. A devastating, undeniable show of absolute military dominance. And the decapitation didn't just stop with the supreme leader. In the weeks that followed, the campaign moved methodically through the regime's leadership, taking out key strategic planners, paramilitary commanders, and intelligence chiefs, one after another. The goal wasn't just to cut the head off the snake, it was to make sure it could never grow back. And this brings us to the real heart of the matter, the two-sided Jekyll and Hyde nature of this outcome. On one hand, you have a stunning short-term military victory. The regime's ability to wage a conventional war is just gone. But on the other hand, you have this incredibly dangerous long-term risk, a chaotic power vacuum, and something that could make the future far, far more dangerous. And that something is called a nuclear grievance. It's a really important concept. It's the conclusion a country might come to after being so totally and completely crushed by conventional military force. The lesson they learn is terrifyingly simple. If we don't have a nuclear bomb, our survival will always depend on the mood of a stronger power. So the operation, in its success, may have accidentally made the ultimate case for getting the bomb. Which leaves us all with this final, really unsettling question. This new playbook of performance warfare, these highly visible, technologically overwhelming strikes designed to shock and decapitate an enemy, it's undeniably effective. But by proving that all conventional defenses are basically useless against it, has it actually made the world a less safe place? Has it pushed more nations toward the one weapon they believe can truly guarantee they won't be next?